YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with my wild card round score predictions for every wild card round game, picks against the spread as well, and we'll take a look at my favorite picks and most likely touchdown score in each game. So having a little fun with this, but we've been doing the score predictions every single week, and we'll continue to do them throughout the year. And we have other playoff videos on the channel, more to come. Also, off-season videos as well. A recent mock draft that just went up, so check that out. Like, subscribe to notifications on. Follow us on Twitter. Check out our sponsors, Code GOAT on Liquid IV and the GLD shop. First game, Browns-Texans. Yeah, I went with the Texans. Most people going with the Browns. This was the toughest game to pick out of the wild card games, in my opinion, at least for me. This was the toughest one to pick. The Browns are favored by 3. I'm going to have the Texans winning by 3, but could go either way. It's going to be close. The Browns did beat them up a couple weeks ago. Amari Cooper beat them up, but the Texans were missing a handful of players, including their star rookie quarterback, C.J. Stroud. So it becomes a whole different game, for both teams, really. And that, could that play mind games with the Browns because they were so dominant in that last game? Where do they go into that game like we kind of got to do some of the same stuff because it was working? Where the Texans adjust for that. They know what it looks like, and the Browns really don't know what the full-strength Texans look like. So the game plan factor almost sides with the Texans, in my opinion, but the Browns can mix things up and completely throw off the Texans. The reason to pick the Browns would be like, what's the best thing in this game? Probably the Browns' defense. The Texans got a solid offense, solid defense. Browns' offense has been explosive, solid, but it turns the ball over. It's pretty beat up. But the Browns' defense can be great. Is it great every single week? No. So that would be a reason to go with the Browns, and why I almost went with the Browns. But if you notice this year, the difference between the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland and away from Cleveland, pretty significant, actually. So if this was in Cleveland, I probably wouldn't have hesitated. I probably would have went with the Browns, and I probably wouldn't be saying this is the hardest game to pick, But them being away is big as well. Their defense has been great. They've also run a ton of man coverage, so it's a little predictable, I suppose. That's something that's going for the Texans. I think DeMeco Ryans will have a good game plan for this defense and ready for Joe Flacco. And he's been good. It's been a crazy ride and an incredible story, but he's turned the ball over quite a bit. And if you do that against good teams in the playoffs, chances are you're not going to win. Maybe they can get away with it in the wild card round, but after that, definitely not. So will they turn the ball over? Big question as well. Thing I don't love for the Texans here is it feels like Nico Collins does have to carry this receiver group, so somebody does have to step up. They should be getting some guys back, though. We'll see if Noah Brown or Robert Woods will be able to go. Dalton Schultz could have a pretty good game, but Texans, will they have a game plan for Amari Cooper this time? That's another big question. But again, the Browns away from home, missing so many guys. Like, how long will this run last? And the turnovers that they give up. Those are the main reasons I'm feeling the Houston Texans in this one, and they are underdogs. So 23-20, but that is the toughest one to pick on the week, in my opinion. Next, we got the Dolphins and Chiefs. I'm quite confident with the Chiefs. I could look like an idiot. That could backfire on me. It's the playoffs. We haven't got a feel for the playoffs yet. It's the first round, but the Dolphins got beat up at the worst time. Of course, they're going to be getting some guys back. We think they would have Mostert and Jalen Waddle. That is absolutely huge, and it gives them that firepower. Maybe that the Chiefs don't have at the receiver position, but beat up at the wrong time. Most important things in the playoffs: quarterback, coaching, offensive line, pass rush, and you can flip offensive line and pass rush. And I'd say experience probably be next. And the Chiefs have the experience. They have the best player in football at quarterback. They have the coaching. The Dolphins, the reason for me bringing all that up was the pass rush. They are out of pass rushers. They have the signs set, 3 guys off the street today. And there's some pretty decent veterans. Justin Houston should be fine, but that's tough. So I don't expect them to get much pressure on Mahomes. I think he'll step it up in the playoffs. I think Travis Kelce steps it up in the playoffs. I think Andy Reid and Mahomes kind of control the calling of the offense a little bit more, maybe less Matt Nagy, so that could help them step up in the playoffs. Could the receivers possibly drop the ball any more than they have? Maybe in this game, because it's going to be freezing out, but home, it's going to be freezing. The Miami Dolphins got to go to Kansas City after they just blew the division away. I like the Chiefs in this one. This was probably the closest I was going to have it. Of course, I could be wrong. It could be closer. The Dolphins, Mostert could have a day. Tyreek could have his revenge game. He kind of didn't have that last time they played in Germany. I'm not going to base anything off that Germany game because that was mid-season or early season in Germany. But this is the way I think it goes, and the Chiefs step it up. The best player in football steps it up, in the playoffs like they always do with that experience at home in the freezing cold. So that's where I'm leaning. The Dolphins don't have their pass rush. They don't even have Jerome Baker. So 24-17, I actually thought about, I was like 26-17, 24-17. That's where I was at. The Dolphins are explosive enough to score more points in this, but again, the weather I think will be a factor. Them playing good teams away from home is a factor. So I'll take the Chiefs 24-17 in that one. I'm oddly confident in that one, but could be wrong. Let's get a feel for the playoffs before I make any guarantees. Steelers and Bills. The Bills are favored by a whopping 10. So Steelers plus 10. That's how the graphics work if you're new. Steelers plus 10 at Bills. That's a lot. That's a lot of points. And I do think the Bills are 10 points or more better than the TJ Watt-less, because he's out, Steelers. But I'm not going to have them winning by 10. It's going to be close. I got them winning by 8, but just kind of thinking how this game will go. Well, the Steelers have been playing tough. They've been playing better football. This is tough without TJ Watt, though. That is a big factor for me, having them lose by more than a touchdown. And the line, I think, would be much closer if their best player was playing. But the Steelers, Mike Tomlin, they'll have a solid game plan. I think they'll have a proper game plan. Doesn't mean they'll win. They just might be outmatched in Buffalo in this game. And the Bills are also hot as well, not just the Steelers. But I think they'll try to keep it close. They'll know the Bills have so much firepower, and the best chance to win, especially without your best player, is to try to hold the ball as long as possible, try to drain that clock, limit the Bills' chances, and maybe on some of those limited chances, you get a turnover, and that's how you win the game. That's exactly what they're going to go for. So a lot of running clock in this game, unless they're just going 3 and out, trying to run the clock, but a lot of running the clock in this game, but I think because of both sides, which maybe keeps the game somewhat low scoring, 24-16. I thought about 13 for the Steelers, thought about less for the Bills as well. But that keeps the clock rolling, and with the Steelers trying to play the game close, I don't know if they'll have enough explosive plays. I don't know if they'll be able to stop that. I don't think they'll be able to stop the Bills' offense in this game. But the Bills, I think they'll get a lead, and then I think we'll see a lot of James Cook and Leonard Fournette, Latavius Murray, these running backs running the football, having success, and draining the clock, and getting that much closer to victory and eventually getting to victory. So that'll drain more clock, and I think they'll put their foot on the brake a little bit because of that. I do think I've watched them over the last several weeks, and I think they've kind of been stashing some stuff for the playoffs, the Bills. In the past, they kind of showed all their cards down the stretch of the regular season, and they got figured out in the playoffs and on both sides of the ball, and that's kind of what happens. I think they're trying to – they have a variety of ways of beating teams, and I think they're trying to kind of stash some of that stuff. And I think with a game like this, without TJ Watt, they want to come out hot, and they want to get a good lead, and they don't want to show everything. They want to hit the brakes a little bit, and they want to run the ball, run the clock. So that would be why maybe not a ton of scoring, and maybe it'll be pretty hard to cover a 10-point spread, even though they definitely could, because I think, again, the Bills, the way they sit, and they're pretty beat up too, though. But and TJ Watt out, the Bills might be more than 10 points better than the Steelers. But because of how I think the game is going to go, this is how I like it. 24-16 for the Buffalo Bills. They're a little beat up. They played a little sketchy sometimes, so could this be something? But I like the way their offensive line's playing for the most part. Mason Rudolph's been good, but this is the playoffs here, and that'll be the difference in that one. Next, Packers-Cowboys, a tricky one to pick against the spread. That when I first looked at it, I looked at the spread before I predicted the score, actually, but it happens to be really close. But I happened to look at the spreads, I tweeted them out, and I saw that plus 7.5. I'm like, man, that's probably a lot based on the Cowboys, how they play in big games, and I guess playoff history, but I don't really like basing things off the past. And how the Packers are playing right now, they've set it up on defense the last couple weeks, and the offense, Jordan Love, Aaron Jones, Jaden Reed, these guys are playing a lot better. So I'm thinking 7.5 is probably too much. But when I sat down and really broke down this game, and I wouldn't touch this game, it's still going to be really close to that. So I had actually the Cowboys covering that by 0.5 point. So, but I really think things side towards the Cowboys. But let's see, maybe it's classic Cowboys and they choke in the playoffs. And the reason the Packers could do this is it feels like they're improving every week for the most part. They're really good at coming out and controlling the clock, whether it's running the football or dumping the ball up underneath. and drain the clock and having long lengthy touchdown drives, which drains the clock, and that actually can throw off the Cowboys, because if there is a weakness of the Cowboys, it actually would be stopping the run, even though I think highly of that defense, or maybe the small ball here. So that could be a way the Packers win, and their defense has been playing better, but I don't trust the Packers defense. If they win this game and their defense plays lights out, I'll start to trust them, but the last couple weeks they were pretty solid, but they played the Vikings and the Bears. Before that, even against the Panthers, it struggled. The Bucs game, I think this is somewhat of a similar matchup as going against the Buccaneers offense, but it's a more explosive matchup. And specifically, there's two receivers, like in terms of the type of receivers, that are a lot alike here. One is much better, but Chris Godwin, who the Packers could not deal with, and CeeDee Lamb, they are both slot/outside receiver, but really dominate from the slot. They're good separators, and they're really strong after the catch. But CeeDee Lamb is on another level, especially this year. I think they'll have problems with him. And the Cowboys are a team that they're not going to try to hide stuff for the rest of the playoffs. They know their history in the playoffs. They know, McCarthy's going to want to beat the Packers. You know how sneaky he can be. LaFleur and the Packers, or Jordan Love, these guys can be. They're going to come out and they're going to have full foot on that gas, and they're going to go. So I'm pretty confident with them scoring points. If there's one thing I'm confident with this game, is the Cowboys are going to score points. It's going to be a complete meltdown, and I'm probably going to think the Cowboys are chokers forever in the playoffs if they can't score points in this one. So I'm just not really trusting the Packers defense, even though I do like their pass rush. Cowboys usually do a pretty good job protecting Dak Prescott. That shouldn't be the issue. Packers can score, but are they going to be playing keep up? Is the run going to get eliminated from them? So these are the big questions here. But if the Packers start with the ball, they win that coin toss, they take the ball. I would love that. And they run the ball, they dump it off to Reed, end arounds to Reed, hit Tucker Kraft out there, keep the ball underneath, drain the clock, pound it in the end zone, boom, 8-minute drive, 7-minute drive, whatever it is. It's a whole different ball game. And if they're able to continue to do that throughout the game, the Packers could win the game. So there is a side to pick the Packers, but with that being said, the spread seems pretty big, but I think I'm going to trust their offense in this one. Honestly, it's tough to predict how will the Packers offense be again, and how will the Cowboys defense be throughout the entirety of this game. That's actually something we want to wait and we want to see here. We want to learn in this game. So it could be a fun one here. McCarthy revenge game. Next, we got the Rams and the Lions, and I am feeling the Rams upset in this one. I pretty much predetermined weeks ago, and maybe people will disagree with doing that I was going to pick the Rams in the first round. I just had a feeling, and usually my weird gut things like that, they usually work out for me. I think more than usually. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed in this one, but if they almost got matched up with the Cowboys, I would have picked the Rams, even though they got shellacked by the Cowboys this year. I would have picked the Rams. I just would have done it. I love the way they're playing football right now. They are hot at the right time. They're actually healthy right now, which was the big concern for the Rams going in this year. Laporta just got hurt for the Lions. I guess there's an outside chance he can play. Not that they would have changed. It changes. They're a lot better with Laporta, but I don't know if that would have changed my pick a whole lot. But the Rams could beat you up with the run in Kyron Williams. They could beat you up with the pass in Matthew Stafford in the revenge game going back to Detroit. It is a revenge game for Jared Goff, don't forget. But Stafford's been playing as good as any quarterback in football. I think got to put Lamar at number one, but Stafford's been lights out. He's almost like underrated this year in a way. I think people realize he's been really good, but he can air it out. He's got that star receiver in Cooper Kupp, which he can do a bit more. He can do a bit more in the playoffs here. And Puka Nacua has been outstanding. And Cooper Kupp has always been a zone beater. And Puka Nacua lately has been torching some man coverage defenses. And the Lions insist on running man when they kind of get beaten man sometimes. So it's the reason I like the Rams. I want to see the defense, because the Rams defense on paper doesn't look great, but if some guys have stepped up, they still have the greatness of Aaron Donald. Some rookies have stepped up. Young guys like Ahkello Witherspoon have stepped up. They're well coached on defense. They're well coached in general at Sean McVay as well. But I'm curious how this defense will be, because the Lions offense is tough. I'm curious how Jared Goff will be, because he's had hiccups down the stretch of the season. Teams have been starting to figure him out, running more zone coverage. Something just flew in my eye. And he's been a little on and off. And this is a tough task here. And the Rams do run as much zone coverage as anybody, at the top. Raheem Morris's defense. So that could be interesting. They're familiar with Goff. obviously that staff. So I got things siding towards the Rams. A big thing with the Lions, like if they had a defense I can trust more, I would pick them, possibly. So I worry about that defense. They got some studs up front, obviously. They got some guys coming back, but too much man coverage, and they get beat up through the air. And playing against this explosive Rams defense, that's what I worry about with the Detroit Lions, and the difference with experience here with Stafford and the Rams, McVay and the Lions, and they're the up and comers, and maybe they're past that point really, but it's just a different game in the playoffs. So I do like the Rams. I'm surprised they're plus 3.5. I actually thought I was on to something and maybe they'd be favored or it would be really close there. But so I do kind of like that one as well. But it's in Detroit. That crowd's going to be crazy. And then maybe the Lions just they realize like what we're best at. Like we're going to come out and we're going to pound the shit out of the ball because our running back duo is ridiculous. And we might be the most physical football team there is in the playoffs. There is a remaining. So they might come out and just do that, have success, and limit the Rams' chances. That'll be the Lions' path to victory. I think it's in their nature to try to throw a little bit more, though, and gamble a bit. So we'll see. 27-24 Rams is what I'm feeling in a really solid offensive game. Maybe the most popular game of the week. And then Monday night playoff game, we got the Eagles and the Bucs. A tough one to pick as well. The 4-5 ones are pretty tough. It's in Tampa. The Eagles are playing like the worst team in the playoffs right now. Out of the teams that are in playoff games that haven't been played, but the way I said that was funny. Out of the teams that are in the playoffs, they've been playing the worst recently in the regular season, but are they really the worst team? Probably not. The Bucs have been playing better. Their offense was playing better than it got quite the last couple of weeks, but the defense in general has been playing better because it was atrocious at one point during the year for a stretch. But the Eagles' defense has really been struggling. But, man, the difference in this game, the Eagles are supposed to be better. I guess doesn't mean they're going to be better, but the star talent they have, the experience they have, I feel like they're going to click into gear a little bit at least. But the main difference, besides that, the star, what kind of goes into it is the trenches in this game, the lines, up front. The Eagles' offense line versus the Bucs' offense line, they don't go against each other, but comparing them, the Eagles one of the very best in football, and the defensive lines. Even though the Bucs got a pretty solid one and they'll stop the run, the Eagles, they got studs across that defensive line. So I think the big players realize this is us. This is on us. This is where we shine, and they show out a little bit here. But I still worry about the pass defense getting the ball downfield. I think the Buccaneers could be able to do that a little bit. But I'm going to go with the Eagles, really close to that spread there. I just think the difference in the trenches and the difference in the star talent leans me towards the Eagles. But they've been playing. I'm really not. It's weird because the offense has been disappointing too, and I'm not really worried about the offense. Like if a list of guys are out, maybe, but I'm really not worried about Jalen Hurts. I'm not worried about A.J. Brown if he plays. I'm not worried about DeAndre Swift, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata. I'm not worried about these guys. The defense, I'm not really worried about the defensive front, but how many opportunities will they get? I'm worried a little bit about, the linebackers and behind, even though they got some pretty good corners on paper. But I think the difference in talent is the difference in this one. So I will go with the Eagles. I could see the Bucs winning. If the Eagles play like they've been playing, they're going to lose. Plain and simple, they're going to lose. So that could be it right there. So going over against my picks against the spread, we did really good on the year, obviously. So I was happy about that. Playoffs a different game. We'll see. I have the Texans winning, so it's a 50-50 game. But so of course I'll take them +3. I like the Chiefs -4. The Chiefs are a playoff team. They have the best player in football. They're going to click into gear. They're home in the freezing cold against Miami. I think they'll win by more than 4. Pretty confident. Steelers, Bills. Probably wouldn't touch because the Steelers without T.J. Watt. Yeah, they might be 10 points or more worse than the Bills, but I think a lot of this game, the game plan for these two teams are, the Steelers, it's like, let's keep it close, let's limit their chances, so that's going to drain clock, and the Bills, let's get a lead, and we'll drain clock and move on to the next one. So a lot of draining clock limits the chances at points, which limits your ability to get up by more than 10 points, I suppose. So that's why I felt more comfortable with the Steelers +10, but there's a chance they might not be able to do anything because they're just outmatched by the Bills, and the Bills might just click into playoff gear and just go all out. They don't give a shit about saving stuff. That's possible. Cowboys Packers is the ultimate don't touch of this week. I don't in terms of the spread. It's going to be right around there. History shows take the Packers plus 7.5. But the matchup and it being in Dallas maybe says they slightly win, or maybe they win in an ass beating. So I wouldn't touch that one. Rams plus 3.5. My two favorites on here are the Chiefs -4 and the Rams plus 3.5. I think the Rams win the game, so getting that extra 3.5 is pretty solid. I see a lot of people do like the Eagles -3. It's a little scary because they've been playing like shit, but no excuses. They should win and they should cover, even though it might be kind of close. So I kind of combine my locks video with this. I don't have a long list of locks. It's hard to guarantee anything on the first week of the playoffs. But my favorite against the spread pick, I'll give you two. I like the Chiefs -4, and I like the Rams plus 3.5. Originally my favorite one was the Rams plus 3.5 because I knew I was going to have the Rams winning. I had a gut feeling about the Rams. Could be wrong on that, but so them getting 3.5 points looks pretty good. But that's my favorite money line pick. Upset money line pick. The Rams will go against the spread. I think that there's a chance the Chiefs win big. Dolphins missing pass rushers in the freezing cold against the best player in football. Take the Chiefs -4. Straight up, like who's most likely just to win outright? I'll go with the Buffalo Bills. No TJ Watt. They shouldn't really have much of a problem. And over-unders haven't been great this year. I did well on the rest of the things, obviously, but Eagles Tampa, like with the weakness in the defenses, I know the Bucs defense has been playing better, but I'm not buying it. Eagles have star players, and Eagles defense has been struggling. The team's got to score points here. It's got to go over 44 in my opinion, but I guess it could be close. And then one more thing I decided to add. I went ahead for like anytime touchdown bettors. I went ahead and picked my favorite anytime touchdown in each game. For the Browns, the Browns-Texans, I picked the Texans to win, so I was like, do I go Nico Collins? But I felt more comfortable going David Njoku, but the obvious choice would be Amari Cooper because how much he dominated the Texans last time in 2 touchdowns. I just think there'd be more of a game plan for him, and there's going to be better players out there. They were sitting a lot of guys in that game. Njoku's safe bet to get targets in the red zone. And we know Flacco loves him. For the Chiefs, Dolphins Chiefs, maybe Pacheco with the weather. I was thinking about that, but I just got a feeling here. I've been staying away from Kelsey bets all year, but again, in the cold, maybe you lean towards the running backs. Pacheco, Mostert, very possible. A-Chan's been playing well, but Kelsey, him and Mahomes always dominate in the cold. It doesn't affect them. It'll actually play better, it feels like. And I feel like he's going to click into playoff gear here. So I'll go Kelsey. Josh Allen, thought about James Cook, but if they get on the goal line, they hand to a running back. Well, first off, they get on the goal line, it might just be Josh Allen. But if they do hand to running back, it's not guaranteed to be James Cook. They've been using Fournette more, not more than James Cook, but more than he was being used, which was nothing, not at all. But Josh Allen's been a frequent scorer, so I will go with him. CeeDee Lamb, I love Lamb for this because he's been scoring like crazy pretty much every week as it is. They're gonna, it's the playoffs. Teams are gonna get the ball to the best player, plain and simple. They're gonna try to use their best players. So there's that, and I think it's a bad matchup for anybody. But I think it's a bad matchup for the Packers. What their defense has been doing, struggling down the stretch. Maybe not the last 2 games, but weaker offenses they played. I think it's a similar match. He's a similar style player. He's much better, but then Chris Godwin and Packers had all sorts of trouble with him. So I see Lamb getting in the end zone. Rams, there's 2 I like, but Kyren Williams the obvious one. He's a scoring machine, but I like Puka Nacua actually, and it's a little scary because Cooper Kupp could really come more alive. He's been alive, but more alive. But the Lions run man coverage unless they switch it up. It seems like Cooper Kupp beats the zone. Puka beats the man based off recent games. Well, Cooper Kupp throughout his career, but he can beat man as well. He's just better against zone because how smart he is. But I like Puka to score as well. And then for the Eagles, Hurts will get a rushing touchdown, whether it's normal rushing touchdown or if it's tush push on the goal line. So I feel pretty good about that one. So my favorite ones on this list are probably the bottom 3. I do like Puka. I mean, Josh Allen's a pretty frequent scorer. Njoku's going to get his targets in the red zone. I feel like a lot of money's going to be on Amari Cooper scoring, but will it be different? I could see it being a lot different this game, but we'll see. Maybe he just dominates them again. So I thought this was fun to add this. Kind of combine my locks video with this one because there's not a whole lot to talk about with the locks, and I added this as well. So we'll do this every single week. Any other props or bets I come up with, I end up posting on Twitter. We have our weekly picks with the other guys up on the channel. We have a recent mock draft. We have all kinds of playoff and offseason videos and more to come. So join us, like, subscribe, turn notifications on. That is going to do it for this one, though. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.